Okay. Sup, guys? So I'm going to be giving a talk on web components, which are completely the future of web development. They're really awesome. So what are web components, for all of you who don't know? So basically, they are a set of new specs for HTML that allow creating custom, reusable, extendable, awesome web different elements for the web. So to start off, we have the shadow DOM, because in the past, encapsulation in HTML was really difficult. So back in the day, basically the only way to like isolate your code so that someone else wouldn't do anything with it really in some sort of fashion was to use iframes. And iframes are kind of heavy and stupid and big. So we can do better. So the shadow DOM gives us the ability to have like a shadow DOM and render this subtree inside the DOM without actually sticking it there itself. So it hides a lot of the implementation details from you as the web developer that you don't really need to know. So like if you're using a custom element or something and the implementation details change, doesn't matter. You don't care. You really should only care about the element itself and that it works. HTML imports. That's another one of the specs, because loading HTML was also hard. Back in the day, you could load all sorts of resources in your HTML files, but HTML was not really the way you could do it. So loading HTML, you could really use iframes again, which is stupid, as I said before. Or you could use Ajax, which is weird because why do I need to use JavaScript to get HTML inside my HTML? That's not fair. We can do better. So HTML are basically a way to include HTML in your HTML. So it looks very similar to the way you would include style sheets. It's an import, a link tag. Now you get the image. Yeah, it was good. So yeah, you just pass in the location of your HTML file, use import instead of style sheet, which you would use with style sheets, and then it will import your HTML file. This also has the same origin policy thing going on, so you can't get resources from other places easily without course headers, and everyone hates that. Templates, because reusability was hard. In the past, we used server-side templating languages to do templating, or we just copied our code, or we just didn't do this. It was just really not easy. So now we can, again, do better. So templates basically allow you to do reusable chunks of code in your HTML. So nothing inside the template is actually rendered unless you actually clone it and put it inside somewhere, like a shadow root, because shadow DOM is also cool. So this is basically how you would create a template. Just template tag, put something in it. That would just be a template with span hello. Yay. And finally, custom elements. Because reusability and encapsulation and loading HTML are no longer hard. So now we should use it. So let's get into Polymer. Polymer is a framework for creating web components. It supports modern browsers through a polyfill, because not all of modern browsers, pretty much only Chrome and Opera, support all of the 4 specs that I talked about earlier. So now you can still do it on things like IE and Safari and Firefox. That's cool. So Polymer's main worldview, I think is what they refer to it as, is that everything is an element and that everything you do should be an element. So that doesn't mean that, so it's not just UI stuff, so that's not always elements or just for example, there's core Ajax, which is used for getting Ajax stuff. That's its own element. Everything should just be an element, and it really allows for making actual web applications using Polymer. So big question, is this production ready? Nope. So yes, I would not recommend using this on your senior project. Yes, John Renner. We'll get there. Don't worry. It while the polyfills for like Polymer and I think Xtags has their own version of own polyfill for doing this stuff too. They work, but this is very early preview. The spec hasn't been finalized yet. I do not recommend doing this in production. It's really awesome, but not yet. So here we go. So just to answer some few questions. So what's the point of studying web components if IE doesn't support most of the spec? Torque didn't work. Why are you trying to convince me that you should use something that doesn't work? And again, why should I care? So personally, I think this is going to be the future of web development. This is awesome. And this is why you should care. Because while it's not production ready yet, it will be. All the mountain browsers will support it. It will be awesome. So you should care just a little bit. Let's make some elements. Because no one really wants to hear me talk. So, wait. Too bad. All right, whatever. All right. So, time to start coding things. We're going to make a to-do list. I am not showing you anything. Hold on. Oh, this is good. All right. Nope. I got this, guys. If anyone has any questions while I'm trying to do stuff, go nuts.
When you import HTML, does it just drop the HTML from the target page where you import it, or does it pull it in at the top and then you can reference it?
You pull it in at the top and you can basically reference it. Mostly you will be importing templates, which you will be able to access, and they don't render on their own anyway. It doesn't just embed it in the page. Okay. Yes. So it does work on iOS? Sort of? Like, okay, so it's not technically supported in Safari at all. Like, Safari has implemented none of the spec. So I don't know. I've used it with Polymer and gotten it to work on iOS pretty well. So no, I don't know. It's when Apple implements the spec in Safari. So hi, there's a lot of stuff up here. All right. So yeah, we're not hiding that. Anyway, so we're gonna make a to-do list. It's gonna be hip. So we're gonna start by making a Polymer element. Well, actually, first we're going to correction. We're gonna import polymer.html, which allows us to create Polymer elements. This is too big. So import tag. I have it here, so this is where it's gonna be. So now we have that. So now I'm going to create a Polymer element. You create a Polymer element using Polymer-element. I forgot to mention, all of your custom elements must have dashes in it. It's just part of the spec, probably to avoid name clashes. That's what I've always assumed. It's probably actually defined somewhere. So I'm going to make a Polymer element called to-do. And that's how you create. So inside of this, I'm going to give it a template. And then we're going to do stuff. So let's just say first we'll have a header that says my to-do list, because we're cool. We'll also have something like maybe an input so we can add items to our to-do list. So to do data binding in Polymer, you use handlebar syntax. So I'm going to store this in value. And we'll get more into this later, but that's how that's going to work for now. And then I'll have some button. Yes.
Does Polymer play nice with Angular?
Yes and no. It is the data binding together, like doing Angular and Polymer data binding with each other, sometimes gets a little weird. But you can kind of get it to work using events. It's basically you're gonna because some trying to do Polymer data binding and Angular data binding is weird. But if you bind them to Polymer elements, fire events, then Angular can do stuff with it.
I'm less worried about getting Polymer to talk to Angular and more worried about accidental cross.
There won't be. Yeah. Getting them it's hard enough getting them to talk to each other. Yeah. Yes. Correct. But you usually use this inside a template, inside a Polymer element, so it'll be okay. So I'll make a button. Have an on click so it does something. Call this submit. That will be a function that we'll create later. Now we have a button. So now we go back down here. We made a to-do list. Now, if you just want to see, I already have an index.html that makes our little to-do item over here. Ta-da. So if you want to see it, not working. Hold on. Didn't save it. Not working. We're having a good day today. We don't have a script tag yet, so we're going to put no script in for now. Hold on. Not working. I did not. It's there. This is a really good demo, guys. I'm having a good day today. Let's debug my thing. Who spots the problem? What? Bower Components has it. Yes, I did on Bower Components, which is not doing that. All right, I'm just going to continue writing and show you what's supposed to happen. All right, so let's say we're creating a to-do list. So then we can use template. We can create templates inside of templates. And for this situation, we'd probably want to display all the items that we have. So we use a repeat. And you combine this to things. So I'll do item and items and do that. Then next up, we'll make a to-do item, which we'll create later. And that can have content, which will bind to the item. And have an on click so we can finish it. Finish. All right. So now that we have that, we can create, I'll remove no script for now. We'll have a script now. We'll do some JavaScript to make some of this actually work. Maybe. So in your script tag, you'll create Polymer. We call the Polymer function, get, pass in the name. So in this case, our name is to do. and then you pass an object. So for this one, we're going to want the ready is called when it's ready. So right in the beginning. So I'm going to assign items to an empty array. So we have an empty array so it's not confused. Then we defined these functions. We defined submit. We talked about submit before, so I'll make the submit function, which will take the whatever's in value at the time, which is bound because we made it in the input before, and add it to the list. And then I'll set this value equal to empty string so that it's empty now. Next function we did, which was finish, which will get rid of an item. This one we'll take in the event because we kind of want to know which element we clicked on. Submit would also have an event if we cared, but we don't care, so I don't care. So we'll take this dot items dot splice, and we'll do event this dot items, get the index of the item event of the actual item, and we can get that event dot target will return the item, the thing you clicked, and then I can just call dot content because that's a thing that we have, which you can see over here. So then come on, and that will remove the item from the list. So that would work if we weren't having problems. The next part that I will do is create the to-do item. Similar to, well, we don't have to include anything. We'll make a Polymer. You know what might fix this? So I forgot to do this. So we have to include a to-do item. So I'll do that, which we're about to create. So to create to item, I'll make another Polymer element. And then name that to-do item. Make a template. This one actually is going to be no script. You have to specify no script if you're not going to have any script that is associated with it. It legitimately tells it that there is no script. That's what it means. It breaks if you don't do it. So this one will just have pair tag. Also want to include in here attributes. To specify attributes that are publicly accessible, you just specify them by name here. So the one we have is content, so I'll do that. Then just display content. So theoretically at this point, it would work if we weren't having problems. Let's figure it out. We're going to have fun. So it is there, and I'm not including it. Well, it's actually not there, but I'm including it from. I have Bower installed. It's right there. What? I launched it from that directory. So here's what we're going to do. I have an idea. An example, which is where Gulp is being launched. All right. We're going to try moving. What? No. Correct. Good point. Which is why I'm going to move Bower components because I'm too lazy. Yeah. Yep. Fine, fine. If this is what you guys want, we'll change the golf file. And then go from there. All right. So this should be an example now. I can web development, I promise. Hold on. I'm going to add some text to that button that I never added text to. Add item. All right. Live reload. So let's add an item.
Definitely have to do that.
It's added. I'll add another item. Oh man. We'll click on it and it'll go away. No way. Let's say we wanted to keep the completed item somewhere else. This is really exciting. So we're going to make another template that repeats things. An item.completed items. And that's going to also show a to-do item. Yes. Shh, my dog. Let the master speak. Anyway, so now we have that. We'll make this dot completed items. We'll add some H2 here. Completed items. And then in our finished, before we do that, we'll do this dot completed items dot push the event dot target dot content. So now it'll be there. Thanks. Oh man. So now if we add some items, add item. Oh, it's completed now.
So how much is the lines are blurred right now between Angular? What's happening?
So from my understanding, for directives, for an Angular 2.0 for directives, they might be using Polymer. Might. Yes.
I mean, as near as I can tell, this isn't really using much, if any, JavaScript.
Correct.
Whereas Angular runs almost entirely with JavaScript.
Correct.
A lot of Angular do count on things that now exist.
Yes.
So honestly, there's the one note will also just be a platform integration for all this stuff. So like Angular has some soul searching to do.
Yes.
Figure out what it needs to be Angular now that it's
Yeah.
JavaScript kind of has that going on.
Yes, Nick?
I believe the point of Angular is to be like your full MVC or MV whatever solution for the client side, while Polymer can use you can like script stuff on MVs and have really nice interactive components, but I don't think they ever end up like that full model.
Yeah.
So is this gonna be like the default on how you do this kind of stuff, or is Polymer just an implementation?
Polymer is like, you can just do this natively. You can just use, there are other libraries too. Polymer is just one way of doing it. There's Xtags, which is something Mozilla made that does similar sort of things. Yes.
So I guess what does Polymer provide on top of is that with both the polyfill and the library? So where is that from?
So I guess Polymer makes it a lot easier for you to do some of this stuff. It handles like the shadow DOM stuff for you. It has what? Creation is a lot easier. Data binding, that sort of stuff is within Polymer. Some of the Polymer has a lot of core components as well built for you, that like a lot of UI and other stuff built in for you. So that's really where that line is. Yes.
AngularJS requires like, it seems like it's one giant JavaScript file, a bunch of JavaScript files, and have this HTML code which is separate. And in order for both of them to work, you need to have both the HTML with its templating magic and the JavaScript with its templating magic, its domain logic magic together. In this case, you just say, hey, I want this component. I don't need to like throw this logic around.
Correct.
You just say, include this magic.
Yeah, like it's supposed to like promote reuse and being able to just take what you've done and put it somewhere else natively. So yes, without having half of your page in JavaScript. Yes.
So in your example thing, the to-do item depends. To-do depends on to-do item, right?
Yes.
Is there a way to like handle those dependencies?
So Polymer pretty much handles all the dependencies and stuff for you. I think that's part of it's part of the spec. So basically it will only import anything once. I could type import to do and stuff like that all over any million times I want. It will only be imported once. So in the case of a circular dependency, it would have only been imported once, so it would stop. Technically, it wouldn't really be circular because it will only import the file once. So it wouldn't work very well. Basically, I can just show you. It will basically just treat to do as something that's there, and none of this will actually do anything. So like if I were to remove to do item, let's just do it this way, which is not what you said, but you know, it's basically the same effect. I can add all these things. They just don't do anything because it still kind of works. Like it's still doing what I want it to do. It's just to do item doesn't have a template, so there's nothing to display. That's the only difference. And probably remove would break and stuff. There's no content, but yes. Any other questions? Yes. Paper. Paper is Polymer's implementation of material design. They created a bunch of they've created a bunch of elements that you can get from, you can just get them, they're there. They're mostly based off the core elements, which are less styled, but they're all material design. They're pretty cool, I guess. You don't need to use them if you're not interested in using material design, but if you are, that's one implementation that exists out there right now. Yes. You mean design link? Not that I know of, or at least not officially that I know of. Yes.
So you had some stuff like already downloaded. If I wanted to do my own to-do list,
All right.
what do I need to have?
So what you need is Polymer. So you can Bower install it. Just Bower install. It's Polymer/Polymer with capital P. Just get it from their GitHub repo. The paper elements are Polymer/paper elements. The core elements are Polymer/core elements. You can go from there. But really you just need the Polymer stuff to do anything. You have to include platform.js is the polyfill. Polymer.html must be included somewhere. So I included it here. And then you can pretty much get started. Yes.
So in the future, when browsers decide to actually implement the stack, would you be able to stop it with platform.js?
As far as I understand, yes. Because I'm pretty sure platform.js is only the polyfill. Renner says I'm right. Yes. Yes.
Is there anything that breaks super hard? Like obviously Firefox, is there what is that Safari using?
Yeah.
Well, what else works well with them?
So most of the stuff that I found that doesn't work well is trying to use Polymer with other things. Using Polymer just on its own with a static site, I have not had any major problems. Some stuff you run into is how to handle styling with the shadow DOM versus the polyfill versus the actual implementation. Because the polyfill version will allow you to access the shadow DOM elements in ways that you're not technically supposed to be able to. So if you're like testing on Safari, for example, which has none of this implementation done, you could style things just by going through your selectors and going all the way down through the shadow DOM and style something and it will just work. You open that in Chrome and it won't work. So stuff like that. But things that I found that don't work very well is like when I'm using Polymer and Rails. That's awful. I've opened bugs. There's been problems. But nothing super major. The polyfill is pretty good. Like it is pretty good. It's still just not production ready yet. We obviously had our torque issues, where it didn't work and would crash, and we don't know why. Yes, Nick. Yes. Correct. Yes, it does support. Yeah, the polyfill support modern web browsers, not the non-ones, but they work. Any other questions? Yes. Yes. Yes, it does. Not IE5. But I think IE9 and IE10 both work. Yeah. Yes. It should. Does it not? I don't have an Android phone. So. Yeah, so if that's not considered a modern web browser, I would probably say no. Is this most of the stuff is really targeted at modern web browsers. Okay. Okay. Sweet. Yes.
Are there when you've been working with Polymer, are there other like libraries or frameworks that you feel complement it really well? I know you said Rails kind of crashed and burned and Angular.
Node works pretty well. If yeah, Node works pretty well. If you like working with Angular and Polymer does work if you like realize that you can't have your Polymer elements exactly talk to you. So yeah, but you can just fire events between them and communicate that way. Yes. Yeah.
So it's trying to make that libraries are large and trying to
Yeah.
the point is to be able to write HTML and forget and if you need a tool rather than development for it.
Yeah.
So anything that's sort of static HTML, it's honestly like template HTML.
Yeah. Yeah, basically it works best with nothing. Anything else? Yes.
So what's really the scope of a project needs to be to use like Polymer effectively? Like, would a small web app be like the main target for using Polymer, or would it be just as applicable for a large, like just like a very, very large?
So if you're making a large single page web app, I probably would not recommend just using Polymer on its own. I would. It's really targeted at any size web app, but I mean, it doesn't like unlike something like Angular or something with routing built in and stuff like that. Not exactly the same thing. There are some routing options that you can use with Polymer, but it's not really done the same way. But for creating custom elements that you use anywhere, it doesn't really matter the scale of your project. It just kind of works. Yes. I have no idea what caused the issue that I was having with Rails of it just deciding to not do links right. So yeah, it might have been turbolinks. It might have not. I made some GitHub issues. They're priority too. Yes.
So let's say I'm working on 2D.html.
Yes.
What if I want to use like underscore? How do I?
So you would include that in the same way you would include any JavaScript using a script tag, and you will have access to it because you're just using HTML. Yes.
Along with that, another thing that Polymer encourages is tracking all of your script imports in HTML imports because they guarantee a one-time inclusion. So that if I need underscore and some other element needs underscore, both got it, and nobody had to get both missed.
Yes. Yes, Nick.
Does Polymer encapsulate scripts so that, like, I know that the shadow DOM encapsulates CSS, so that CSS on like your parent components don't screw you over. But what about scripts? Like, what if I include a web component that uses underscore and I'm using Flowdash in a way where they're not, and they have like distinct.
I believe that you're probably still going to have problems depending on where you include the script tag. If you include it in the element itself, I think it will still probably have. It should. Does it not?
No, the only competition you get with JavaScript is that the HTML imports get their own script life cycle and document, but they share a window, and that's the only competition.
My bad.
Kind of a question for Renner, I think.
Stop
Does this
taking.
mean that Polymer is holding on to, like, it's keeping pretty much everything loaded across all of your Polymer pages? Like, if I'm on one web page and I click the link, like, next page or whatever, and it loads up that new web page, is it unloading and reloading things, or
That would depend on whether or not the browser is reloading or not reloading. Right, so if I did a refresh of the page, you would get the new page and pull down everything. Your browser might cache the HTML files in time, or if you give Polymer like a custom like replace the page content next, then obviously you would refresh it. That's a pretty good question.
You should ask me questions. I could have answered that one. Any other questions? Besides us. I don't know who's. I mean, the world. Yes.
Well, one here, the HPC site last name was written in Polymer, and that's when our webmaster discovered that Polymer is very much not ready for production. But also GitHub uses it a little bit for like timestamps and things like that. They actually have custom.
Any other questions? Sweet.
thank you.
Yes.